Okay. That should be fine. Right. The key is go. The key is go. Gonna try and focus on some of the tactics that I'm pulling off here, guys. And, you know, if you got any questions or anything, just at me, and I'll do my best to answer them. So we'll move out of the way of that slobber knocker. What a name. Difficult to forget. Difficult to forget. You know when the slobber knocker is after you. Okay. I could be soothing there, but in that situation, it's so negligible that I'm not going to. Now, what I'm going to do here is build up 5 combo points. Ah, okay. The guy's twisted around. And then I'm just going to... oh, well, it didn't manage to work out that way. What I want to be doing on these AoE packs is building up to 5 combo points quickly. So I'll get my Thrash on a target, I'll pop my Rip, and then I want to Blood Talons and double Brutal Slash, triple Brutal Slash. There we go, there we go, that's what we want to see. So it's kind of cheesy, but it gets the damage. So build up to 5 combo points quickly, try and rake mobs if you can to build up the combo points, and then Thrash, normally you'll get a double combo point on your Thrash if you're lucky. So right now I can rake Rip, I'll then rake there, I like to Thrash there, I'll throw in a... Brutal Slash because it doesn't matter too much. Blood Talons, and then I'm going to switch target there, re-rake there. Obviously, the ideal situation with Blood Talons is to be able to use it with Blood Talons. Sorry, with Brutal Slash is to be able to use it with Blood Talons, but you can't always. I am going to suit that mob. You can't always. And then, I mean, you'll see me as well. I'm trying to... What I'll try and do is end a fight on as many combo points as possible, so that then on the next fight I can immediately rake and have a Rip on the target immediately, which is just going to ultimately increase my DPS. So the only things I'm really going to Blood Talons on are rakes and Rips, and you can see the damage pays off for it. The damage pays off for it, surprisingly. Remember when I got removed from that last key for being feral? I mean, it is Tyrannical Week, so we got to see this Elemental Shaman. I mean, we'll see how his damage kind of comes about on the boss, but right now it's gonna. Can you imagine Feral Druid on the beta with Tiger's Fury on GCD? It would be unplayable. It would actually put Feral on the ground if Tiger's Fury was still, because you had to make a choice, right? So when you go into an AoE situation, like you're gonna see right here, right? So I'm going to rake. There's 1 global. I'm going to then Thrash, there's 1 global. I then have to Tiger's Fury, that's another global, and then 2 Brutal Slash, right? I mean, this is a high key, and the mobs were pretty much dead, right? You imagine on a lower key, the mobs are just dead before you can even get your rotation around. So it's actually just like a detriment, because you have a limited window. You got to think on like a low key where a Demon Hunter comes in, and they just knock you with a little eye beam. You only have, what, a couple globals to actually get any meaningful DPS. So you have Thrash is 1, and then 2 Brutal Slash. If you include Rake as well, which I guess technically you should, then you've got 4... Oh, I need to suit that. You've got 4 globals of a window. Look at that. Look how quickly that mob dies, right? So you've got 4 globals in your window. If you got to use one of those to Tiger 3, that's an additional global cooldown. You really gonna get that in? Nah, probably not. So there we go. There's a Thrash. Blood Talons. Again, get the Rip. Boom. Get the Blood Talons again. Blood Talons, all of my Brutal Slash. And then again, I'll even Blood Talons that there. And then just try and maintain these rakes in this situation. There we go. So we're keeping our Rips up, keeping our rakes up. And that's it. And then we'll just build up 5 combo points or near to it as possible. And we're just gonna sit on 5 combo points now for the boss. We got a Tiger Fury up from the oh, okay, he's infested, so perfect. Even better. So we got our Tiger Furies up, so that's going to mean that our initial rake is going to have 115% increased DPS. Beautiful, beautiful. Now what I'm going to do is try and bleed up the boss nicely. Try and bleed up these mobs, because is tyrannical, so they'll probably overwhelm us if we're not careful. You'll also notice in my talents, guys, I have Tiger's Fury. Tiger's Dash, sorry. I personally think that it is a really, really, really good talent. But I don't think many people in the community share my opinion on that one. But I think it's really good, so... I just think the movement is so much more... Because, like, Wild Charge is good, but if you're not trying to charge to a target, say you're trying to move out of something, it's not necessarily better in that situation. I need that mob to die there. Perfect. Throw up my Brutal Slash. Maintain the rip there nicely. I think a lot of feral play, which I think I imagine is what people struggle with, is the maintenance. The maintenance of bleeds. But I mean, really, the more comfortable you get with your rotation, the more able you are to switch off from what buttons you're pressing and focus more on what's happening around you. I'm gonna do that. See there? So that's fallen off. In a situation where there are only 2 mobs, I'm not really bothered about blood talonsing my my Brutal Slash. Right there I did because because I knew that I was going to use my other I'm going to move that. No, okay, he's got it. Right there I did because I was going to use my second blood talons on the rip. I'm actually going to no, I'm not going to re-rip that guy. Let's hit the boss with it. I move in the middle here so I can try and hit both the boss and the ad with my Thrash and my Brutal Slash. It's just nice to do if you can. I'm not going to bleed that mob up. It's going to die too quickly. Tiger's actually really good, just not as good as what it's replaced since the... Yeah, I mean, Displace the Beast was really, really good. And I think a lot of people, they think the value of Wild Charge is too high, but I personally don't think so, because you have Skull Bash. Like, you Skull Bash, just use that. Yes, the range isn't as far. Yeah, I get it, I get it, I get it. But it's, okay, that was a misplay there. See, I ripped that, see? We are all mortal. We are all mortal men. There's no point putting a rip on a target if they're going to die before. I think it's... Okay, I don't know the exact length that rip needs to be on the target before it's more useful than a ferocious bite. But there is a point. There is a point. And I think it's probably just if rip is on the target for less than, like, it's probably just going to be like 8 seconds or something like that. Like, I don't know the exact length. Apologies. But just take note that there is a point. You'll notice as well that a lot of the time I'll use Tiger's Fury even though I'm at max energy at the beginning of a fight, and it's just because I know the mob's going to die pretty quick. Like right now my Tiger's Fury has just popped off and the mob's almost dead. You know, so it's like it's the damage, the increase that I'm getting from that 15% damage increase is worth it. You'll also notice with these mobs I'll move out initially and then I'll edge in, because it's better to, you can actually still attack that mob with balance affinity, right? So it's but I edge in so that I'm, because if you're standing too close, you don't quite realize it sometimes. It's like difficult to tell. Oh, okay, we didn't get the interrupt there. It's difficult to tell, so it's better to move out and then edge back in. And it's a lower chance of you kind of, if you're too close, then by the time you realize you're dead, you know? So it's, I'm just gonna do this. Heal up again. Done my Tiger Sash there, ironically. Again, I misplayed there with my rip. Shuffling around with those, there's no need to completely move out. You'll see a lot of people that get it on them and they'll just completely run away, and it's like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to panic. There's no pressure. You can just shuffle around. You got more than enough time to move out with them. If I get them on me again this dungeon, I'll show you exactly what I do. But yeah, there's no, you know, no pressure. Oh, okay, so we're pulling that one in. I don't think these guys are, I mean, I am quite consistently top DPS this run. I just don't think the DPS I'm with are genuinely amazing. We're going up against an Elemental Shaman, which is, I mean, Shaman's a class right now is probably one of the worst classes in the game, so, you know, I knew I was going to get hit by that. I thought I could just slip past, but I was too slow. So, yeah, and I mean, Frost Mages, honestly, I have not seen one good Frost Mage this expansion. Not one. I just haven't. Like, can anyone else confirm? Have you guys seen one good Frost Mage this expansion? Okay, that's a lie, actually. There is one viewer that I play with that's good as a Frost Mage. And that's a Rose Bros. That's a Rose Bros. Everyone else? Trash. That's the thing. That's my point on where everyone goes, oh, Feral's bad, and then, you know, it's not meta, and then they'll go and they'll take a mage with them, and then the mage, they just pick the mage because it's a mage. They think, oh, mages are good, right? But maybe the guy that actually is playing the mage right now sucks. Like, it doesn't matter that he's a mage, he's a bad player. So, I mean, is that better? Is it what's better? Right? A bad class that's being played by a good player, or a OP class that's played by a bad player? Did I just say the same thing? I think I just said the same thing twice. And as I say that, the mage starts speaking on the DPS. Yeah, I generally just think this dungeon, these guys aren't overly, like, don't get me wrong, they're like, we're doing fine, but I think for the type of week it is as well, I don't think we're in the land of gods. I'm gonna pull these. The Rose Bros, that's what I'm saying, man. See, like that's terrible control of that. Just absolutely terrible control. I don't know who it was. See, like, right now, this is on me, so I can move over to that one. Keep DPS in. Keep DPS in. Keep DPS in. There we go, and then I can just move out. Like, there's no need to just run across the field. See, you always got to think, like, yes, do the mechanic, because a lot of people might see the mechanic and go, oh, okay, I need to move out with this. Okay, I'm going to go move out, right? Yes, technically, they are correct. Good job, they moved out. They did what they were supposed to do. But they also just completely dropped all of their DPS down to 0. And, I mean, like, right here, always look for an opportunity where you can do damage. So I know in that situation, I can do 2 Moonfires, so I have 2 Globals that I can execute, and then I have to jump back into Cat form to be ready to then use my Cat form abilities. Always look for the opportunities where you can increase your DPS, because that is your job as a DPS, to do as much damage as you can. Funnily enough, it's in the name. So, if you're ever in that situation, oh god. See, this is something where you just have to move out. Like, there's no ifs, buts, or coconuts about it. You just gotta get out. And then I know I can recast Regrowth there. If I had Wild Charge, ironically, I would have been able to attack there. But yeah, you should always be seeing where you can optimize your DPS. And, I mean, a lot of people just think, oh, I did the mechanic, I moved out. And it's like, yeah, that's fine, but could you have done damage in that situation? Could you have extended your DPS? Or did you have to move out? Was there any other choice, you know? Feral Druids perform better on fortified weeks, which is weird. Okay, see, there, the boss did not have, the boss has not got a full-length rip and rake on it, which is bad. Like, the thing is, you can make mistakes, and you can get away with it in a dungeon, as long as those mistakes are not being kind of compounded on one another. As long as you can make those mistakes as separate instances. No, we're not going to survive there? Okay. So, like, I don't always do the optimal DPS rotation. Not always. Like, okay, probably most of the time I don't. But it doesn't matter because the length of the dungeon is so long that you can make mistakes and you can kind of just absorb them. It comes down to if you are fundamentally playing the spec wrong, then overall, you will be punished for it. So there we go, this is going down nice. Oh, see, I popped my... mistimed my cooldowns there. And I can't get that over because it bugged, I couldn't target the mob. So, you know, you don't always have to, like, do it perfect, but you can still kind of do some really good... Because you got to imagine as well, the people that you're playing with are probably not going to be perfect. But as a feral druid, I think you need to understand where you can do more damage, because you need to make up for the fact that you are a feral druid. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not going to lie to anyone, it is a weaker spec than a lot of other classes. So you can't kid yourself on it. You do need to... It's like, okay, if you watch SFand will tell you about Rep Paladin in Classic, and it'll say, yes, I play a Rep Paladin in Classic, yes, you can do it. It's not optimal. Yes, you have to put in 100% on every single fight. You have to be using your potions, your flasks, whatever the fuck else you got in Classic, right? So he'll say that because he knows if he's going to play that, he's already at a disadvantage. It's the same thing with Feral. If you're going to commit to playing Feral, you have to understand you will never be the best DPS, and it will always be, in a way, a struggle. You'll always have to be thinking about your next ability, thinking about your next button press, how you're saving your cooldowns, how you're using your cooldowns, where you can be DPSing more, because you have to make up for the fact that you are on a deficit. You are on the kind of, what word am I looking for? The back foot. Sorry, English isn't my first language. So you kind of just need to be aware of it, and you need to play like it. Because truthfully, why bring a feral druid? They're not going to do any fucking damage. So, you know, people aren't wrong. It's just, you can do damage, you just have to be big brain. You have to bring that big brain. You'll notice, so the best kind of rotation that you can do on a 3-mob pack like this is just trying to get your rakes up as quickly as possible, right? Wait for the free thrash that you're going to get, because you will get one quite quickly. So before you thrash, wait until you get the freebie. And then apart from that, just be applying your rakes, keeping your rakes up. Rakes are the main prio. You'll see on that fight, let me see if I can go back to that. Rake is probably, yeah, Rake's my highest damage right there. So I was scared for a second. I was like, let's pray that Rake is top damage, because otherwise I'm gonna look like an idiot. But it was. So on a 3-target like this, Brutal Slash is good, but it's not your main prio. So, I mean, I will still Blood Talons my Rakes. Sorry, my Brutal Slash. But I'm trying to keep up my Rakes as often as possible. And it does some good damage. Like, we're doing a 3-target cleave right now, and I'm sustaining some okay damage. Spawns a Gahoon there. That's fine. I'll soothe that guy because the healer's dead. And that's the thing as well. Always be using like your soothe and that kind of thing, because you want to be... Yeah, so on that pack, that's the damage there. So you can see that it's good at 3-target cleave damage. You've got to make sure as well as a feral that you know your utility. Because I see a lot of people that say, oh, feral utility is terrible. Play a balanced druid. They're way better utility. And it's like, yes, okay, yes, they're range. Yes, they have an AoE silence and whatever. But it's on a longer cooldown, so you know how you make up for it? You interrupt more regularly, and you get better interrupts, right? You make sure you're using your soothe. Yes, boomkins have soothe, but, you know, if we're not necessarily competing against a boomkin, if we're competing against another class, be using your soothe as often as possible when the mob demands it, which is most of the time, but not necessarily all the time. So kind of make sure that you're kind of getting your utility down and knowing where you can be of value, because then that's going to get you invited back. Because a lot of people, especially at the top end, when you try and do higher and higher keys, it's not just DPS. It's not just DPS. It comes down to utility. Oh, let's bring a rogue because then they give us cloak. Well, shroud. Sorry. You know, things like that that are just really useful. Oh, let's bring a frost mage on King Teres because then we can just, you know, kind of ignore the ads quite heavily. Like right now I could soothe, but I'm not going to. And I know it's kind of contradictory of what I'm saying, where I'm like, oh, make sure you're using utility, but also I'm not going to do it there. Just because I didn't want to. I didn't want to. There you go. And I know best, so what are you going to do about it? You go make a video on it. Huh? You go make a video. We'll listen to you on that one. Okay, so we'll move there. Ooh. So like right there on that pack, right? So I'll soothe there because I'm low on energy, right? Normally it depends on the situation. Like when I'm low energy and I'm kind of just pooling, I will soothe 100% of the time. If I'm not pooling and I'm kind of like in the thick of it, like I was on that 4 mob pack there, I'm not going to soothe because there were 4 things in raging. So it's like just the healers, like even if I soothe one of them, there's still 3 enraged things at the same time. The healer's going to have to pop a cooldown. The tank's probably going to have to pop a cooldown. Me soothing one mob is going to be negligible. If it's one mob that needs to be soothed, then you know it can probably prevent, like especially the big you know Cyclops guy. The big Colossus guy, like that's probably going to allow the healer to not have to pop a cooldown or the tank to pop a cooldown. So it's actually probably going to make a significant difference. Another top tip, if you are an alliance player, first of all, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry that you've made that decision. Can I interrupt? No, I can't interrupt. You can shadow melt, and then you can, if you don't move, if you just shadow meld, you can then rake, and it will stun a mob. It will track it as if you are fully stealthed, right? As if you're in prowl. So I'm gonna. Oh no, I'm stunned. Okay, there's nothing I can do there. That's fine. So healer's down, tank's down. If any of these enrage, then I'm gonna do my bit. I'm gonna target the tank there so I can give him a little bit of a heal. Try and help him out a little bit. I'm gonna pop a defensive. I'm gonna pop my cooldowns again. You gotta think as well, you might be thinking, okay, so what points in the dungeon am I gonna be using my cooldowns, right? Because it's a 3-minute cooldown, that's a long time. There are some keys where you'll actually be on the next boss before your cooldowns are up again. So, like, you have to be very careful on when you're using your cooldowns. But I know I've still got this pack, and then I have a whole room of mobs that I have to clear. I'm definitely going to have, especially since, you know, that situation, we just wasted 20 seconds there. I know I'm going to have my cooldowns back up by the boss. And the more you run the dungeon, and at a specific level, the more you can see at what points, like where you can safely use your cooldowns and where you can't. It just comes down to experience, you know? Okay, so again, I've got this ability on me, so I'm gonna shuffle around. It's kind of hard to see there because of the tree. Okay, it's on me again. So we're just gonna shuffle around here. So that's fine. Allows us to keep DPSing, so we're cool. Just always, as a feral, just be aware of your utility. That is going to be what makes people want to invite you back. You know, I get people, and this is not me trying to be big-headed, not at all, not at all. I'm just saying what, you know, what can happen, where I get people that will join it, because it happens, like it happened the key before this one, right? I joined the group, the guy went, feral, ? And I went, yeah, and he went, and it just said, you have been removed from the group, right? So it happens where, like, you know, I've got a 1200 Raider IO score, 1230 or something like that, right? I still get kicked from dungeons. It still happens. It happens. Like, you just gotta kind of accept that if you're playing a feral, that's your life, all right? That's the way it's gonna be. It's like if you're homeless, you know, you just gotta expect it. I don't know where the fuck I'm going with that one, but I don't know, people are probably gonna speak to you like shit. Things like that, right? This is what it's fucking like. We're homeless right now, boys. We're homeless. We are without a home. That's what this is, okay? That's what this play style is. So, you gotta expect that. But I have people that I'll join a key and they'll go, feral, question mark? And they'll go, wow, that's weird. And then they'll be like, oh, this is the first time I played with a feral this expansion, right? I still have people to this week. It is November 7th, right? I still have people this week telling me, oh, first time I played with a feral this expansion. So, like, I've had people like that, and then at the end of the dungeon, they've gone, wow, good job, like, impressive. And then they add me on Battle.net. So you can change people's minds. You just have to be useful, do some nice damage, and the damage is the big one. Like, most people are just going to look at the damage. They don't really care about the utility. Nobody notices, right? They just go, oh, well, who did the most DPS? Oh, that guy? Okay, well, I'll invite that guy again, you know? So, okay, see, I'm at this point where my cooldowns have just come up, and I could use them, but, oh, God. But I know that we're going to be on the boss in a moment, right? Because we've got this pack that's going to die here, and then we've got one more pack, which we've just pulled, and that's it. And then we're on the boss. So I'm not going to have enough time. Let's see, that mob's going to trample. Trying to rake everything that I can. Now I'm going to pop my brutal slash. And honestly, the hardest thing is just being able to actually target. You have to tab target quite a bit, which is kind of a nuisance, but... So this boss, I'm probably not going to be top DPS, and I probably shouldn't be, really. I'll be surprised if I am, because it's a pure single target, and I just shouldn't, because the way my spec is built, and right now Feral is suffering from something that's actually going to be fixed in 8.1, where we're basically in a situation where we either have to choose single target or AoE. There's no one size fits all. You have to kind of go heavily single target or heavily AoE. So right now I'm in an AoE spec. You know, I've got Predator, which is going to have absolutely zero use this fight. It's just dead damage. And Lunar Inspiration, bear in mind, for a single target, will do about 10 to 15% of your damage single target, right? So I've lost that. I've lost a flat 12% damage. And then also I've taken Brutal Slash, which isn't amazing on single target. It's not amazing when you can compare it to Sabretooth, right? So, you know, it is what it is. Got Kel saying, the last boss on this dungeon, Tyrannical, is where you see, you know, how competent your group is. And I think that's very true. Oh god, okay, see. That's me reading Twitch chat rather than paying attention to boss mechanics. I don't need them. Okay, see, so I'm not surprised here to see that my DPS is not all that high on this fight. If I had Sabretooth, you gotta think not only am I Ferocious Bites doing 25% more damage, but also I have one less rip that I'm using every, 11 seconds or so? I think slightly higher than that. Because it should be like 20 plus, I'm sorry, 24 seconds or so without Dragon Wounds? 23? Something like that, 24, 23 in that region. So where am I going this time? Okay. You can pop a Moonfire in this situation, right? It's cheap, it's dirty, but it's easy. Adds a little bit of extra DPS. Probably, in total, probably like an extra like 20k over the course of the fight. DPS is DPS, right? That's your job. That's your job. Do more DPS. Do more DPS. So we'll just move over here. On single target like this, I don't want to be using Blood Talons for my Brutal Slash. I want to be saving it for my Ferocious Bite, my Rip, or my Rake. Obviously, Ferocious Bite I'm only really using once the boss is below 25% health. Because we don't have Sabretooth. But we want our Rakes to be kind of snapshot, so... Okay, again... I can kind of just move over with the boss here. Because of Tiger Dash. Which, again, like I'm saying, like, if I had Wild Charge in that situation, I would have had to move earlier, and then, yes, I could have jumped back to the boss, but I would have had to move way earlier, right? Man, it's a shame to see that Shaman end beneath me when he was peaking at like 18k or something like that at some point in the fight. Quite a lengthy part through the fight. And still end up being an Elemental Shaman needs to get fixed, I think. But then again, what I mean, is he running a single target heavy build? Is he... That to me looks single target. That looks like a single target, but oh, he does have Lava Tome, which I don't know if he can take an AoE sorry, a single target alternative, but that looks to me like a single target build there. So that's quite a shame. Quite a shame. Elemental is so fun to play as well. So what a bummer. Right. So we should complete this in time. This has been a reasonable group. We've not had too many issues. Not too many clear issues anyway. So I'm going to move over here now to this guy. And because I've got this AoE effect on me, what it basically does is it basically needs to be dispelled. But if anyone else is standing in that circle, it's going to send them flying up in the air. Okay, so obviously I want to kind of position myself where, like here on this bridge, where I can still attack, but not at a detriment to the group, right? Not a detriment where I'm going to send the group fly in, right? So I'm going to jump over here. I'm going to multi-bleed a little bit, not jump into the water. Just so I can kind of ensure that we're not going to have too many of these spawn. So I'm going to bleed this up, right? Feral is the king of 2-target cleave. Let's see, so I'm going to position myself here. Maybe Warlocks are better, but... range specs don't count, dude. So yeah, I want to move over there, but... I think both... We've got 2 range, so we'll let them kind of handle it. And I'm just going to pop a defensive here, because I know that's going to slam me, because I'm the prio target, because our tank isn't standing here, because he was killing the other mob. So that's fine. So I'm just going to pop a defensive and just absorb the hit. Things like that, where you can kind of just predict what's going to happen next, and you can kind of just try and play around it, try and keep yourself alive. As DPS, you have 2 jobs. Do more DPS, don't die, right? Those are your 2 jobs. And interrupt, alright? Everyone put interrupt on your bob, please. That's a top tip. Top tip. So I am going, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bleed up this mob, and then I'm going to switch back over to the other mob. So I'm going to use my feral, my tiger dash there. Now I'm not actually going to ferocious bite, sorry, I'm going to ferocious bite this. I'm not going to put my rip on because it's going to die too quick. And then what I can do here is run back over. Now I'm going to pop my blood talons there. Re-rip, re-rake. And again, I'm just going to move over to this because it's tyrannical. I'm just going to do just do the tactics, you know, on a tyrannical week like this. Just do the tactics and you'll be fine. Though we are running low on time now, so... We should still be okay, but we are without Bloodlust, so... We do have 2 range, so they should be able to kind of handle that without me. Yeah, see, they'll be okay there. I've allowed my rip to fall off, which is just bad. But, struggling through. Okay, so I'm going to get that guy up instantly. Because we need his DPS. And I'm just going to prio target this. Okay, so we've had a second Demolisher spawn. So we could be in wipe territory here. I'm going to switch over. Kill this quick. Okay, so we're okay there. Then I'm going to switch back. Okay. We might deplete this. We might deplete this. It's going to be close, guys. It's going to be a close one. Follow me along on this wonderful journey. Okay, so he's jumping in. That's fine. Just gonna... Okay, so this guy's probably going to die. I'm going to help the hero out here a little bit. We are in a little bit of a sticky situation here. I'm going to pop my cooldowns again because they're up. Okay. This guy needs to watch himself. Don't res into that. Yeah, cool. he's not in line of sight. Looks like it's going to be depleted now because a few unlucky situations. Just trying to do what I can to survive here a little bit. Popping some defensive. Yeah, too much. Too much. That's how this goes. That's how it goes. You come onto the last boss, and that really kind of shows the competency of your group, I guess. Just happens. We have build for this one. So that's okay. We're gonna have Bloodlust for this next attempt. I don't actually know where we used Bloodlust. I don't know if we used it on. I think we just used it on that boss there, the third boss, which is kind of a misplay. You don't really need it on that boss. There's not really a whole lot going on that it really demands too much of your big boy buttons, right? Whereas this boss is it's just really time conscious, really time conscious, because the longer it takes. So basically, you have this gripping terror, which has a little human in his hand, or its tentacle, and then you have this demolishing terror, which is just free flapping around, right? And this, the longer that this gripping is alive, the more demolishing terrors that you get spawn, right? The issue being that if more than one spawn, then oh god, gotta move into the war here. If more than one spawn, the tank can't actually pick them all up, right? He can't take the aggro from them, so you end up in this situation where you just get overwhelmed, and they do this slam effect, and it just hurts everybody. And oh, okay, so I took an explosive there because I was busy doing actions. The paralinguistics, my bad. So I'm gonna, just for the sake of ease here, just gonna multi-dart. Good. Move back up to see, so you can see me actually being there was very helpful, because now we have this one spawning immediately, and now I'm just going to duo bleed, which is perfect. Okay, so we're not bloodlusted yet. Good. So there was a moment where I thought that maybe we had, and I was concerned. So I am just going to bleed this. But this should die before we can get any more spawning, so we should be okay. So yeah, I mean, in general, guys, Feral's in an okay state. It's in an okay state right now. So, alright, Kel, that's cool. Let me just finish this one. But, yeah, Feral's in an okay state. It's never going to be the best. Don't get me wrong, you will have dungeons where you will be top DPS, like I'm probably going to be in this dungeon. I'm pretty sure I am, which is like, you know, it is what it is. I'm not, I mean, I'm going up against an elemental shaman and a mage. I'm not really too worried about, not really too concerned about being like, oh, my DPS is good and whatever, because I'm not really going up against the biggest and the best. If you can consistently beat some demon hunters and consistently beat some rogues, well, they're probably bad players, but you know, still give yourself a pat on the back, but just be aware that they're, you know, that you shouldn't be. Something is going wrong on their end, right? Because that's just how it is. It doesn't matter how well you play. Their classes are just, they are better. They are better for the environment that they're in, and that's it. But you'll see that you don't have to be the bottom DPS. You know, I'll be in situations where, you know, I'll go up against, I'll regularly play with demon hunters and rogues, and I'll beat the demon hunter, but I'll lose to the rogue, or, you know, vice versa. And, you know, if you can kind of just aim to beat one of them at least, then that's kind of like, you know, a good goal, just to not be the worst. Just don't be the worst, and you can go home happy. Right, I'm gonna kill this real quick so then we don't get another demo spawning. That mage really needs to... See what I'm saying about not having a good frost mage this expansion? They're meant to be really good class. Okay, so I'm gonna go over here and pop my cooldowns, and I'm just gonna take this. I'm gonna go into bear form. Yeah. The annoying thing about playing this is that now the YouTube video is going to be longer. Unnecessarily long. Still going to throw it up there because I think it's important to kind of show that not everything is you know, goes according to plan. I'm a Demon Hunter or Rogue for the first. Demon Hunter or Rogue? Whatever you want, dude. Doesn't bother me. Whatever you're feeling. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for our tank here. We've got our Bloodlust. There he is. We're good. This is just rough, though. I need to get Dispel. Okay. He's dispelling me before the tank, which I think is kind of a misplay, but... realistically, as long as I'm not taking any unnecessary damage. Oh my goodness. Thank you, RPG. Give me one moment. Give me one moment, and I will, I'll celebrate that with you in a second, dude. Right, okay, I gotta pop some cooldowns here. Yeah, so, kind of a misplay on the healer's part there, but it's okay. It's negligible. Got spun around there. Yeah, as long as I'm not taking any unnecessary damage. Oh my god, this mage. He's killing me here. Literally. He's really killing me, boys. I'm just gonna focus this down. Can I afford to? No, I can't. I can't afford to do that. Ugh. Tank has to move. Yep. He has to go. Good, 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 good. Okay, so this is a good situation to be in, because now I can two-target cleave quite effectively. So I can focus this main prio, but I will bleed this up. Okay, so now I have to just tank this. I have to just tank this or we wipe. That's gonna die in a second. So that's done. As long as we don't die now, the dungeon is completed. In most cases, as long as you don't die, you've done it. That is the game. That is the game. Excellent. And that is a siege. That is a siege 12 in an okay-ish fashion. We'll see what the top DPS is there. So you can see overall, the overall DPS is a little bit skewed because we actually did that last boss twice. So it kind of skews, it lowers the whole DPS a little bit. But, you know, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. Well, that's not exciting. That's not exciting either. Alright, good run.